3 months after landing in 2007, I gave this talk on mobile to a telecommunications conference. And one of the other presenters was at Microsoft Research Labs. And he'd just gone to India for 3 months. And he was trying to put FTP servers into villages to distribute grain prices. And he just said, my goodness, it was so hard to put PCs down everywhere because there'd be dust, there'd be brownouts, you had to teach illiterate farmers how to use a keyboard and all that sort of stuff. And then he looked around and he saw people using mobile phones and sending SMS to each other. So this is 2007, Mike. This is 2007. So he said, wouldn't it be great if I could write a bit of software which could send SMS? And of course, if you were in Asia, people were doing this in like 1998 to 2000. You know, and people were discovering ringtones in 2001, 2003. Tencent QQ, $65 billion listed company, was founded originally delivering visual content, and SMS was a part of it for billing back in 2002, 2003. And here we are in Silicon Valley, and this guy was standing up trying to tell everyone about the wonders of the possibility he had just discovered this thing called SMS. Okay? I mean, you'd be really surprised. Yeah, I think Android is now lost to the Americans. I think that Android now is, the center of the Android universe is now in East Asia, and I think you know, the world's changed. It really is that this north-south corridor. Really, I think this is where leadership for mobile will come from in the future.
My name is Charles. I just wonder, you rightfully spot the first mobile disruption in 2003. So where do you see the next disruption?
Well, I've got this vein that goes up in my head every so often when I'm thinking about my business. It feels like it's going to disrupt. I think that there's I think it's regionalization of internet services. I think it lies in regionalization of internet services. If you're looking at mass marketplace, you know, eBay won't work in Indonesia. A Taobao model might, because it lives with all the assumptions of what that could be. A similar e-commerce company in Russia. Russia is a country with similar demographic characteristics to Indonesia, half the population, has become a I'm trying to remember the name now. It's not Yandex, it's another one. It's an O, and it's a $1 billion company. So, you know, it's the fact that you've got it's the right eBay for Indonesia. Okay, so it's not the fact that this disruption's happening. eBay spreading around the world. It'll be the eBay of Indonesia, which deals with all the different issues that are unique to the Indonesian landscape, distribution, and all that sort of stuff. It'll be that regionalization of that. It'll be regionalization. It'll be the next. It'll be, you know, China has only become credible when it comes to internet assets in the last 5-6 years. It's only post 2006, 2007. When we left the Valley in 2009, it was hilarious. I picked up his blog the month I was leaving, and they'd just discovered this company called Tencent, which just so happened to be the 3rd largest internet company in the world by market capitalization. I mean, where the hell did that come from? It'll be where the next companies of this nature come from. People forget that there is a $12 billion startup in Russia called Yandex, which is Yandex. I think it's it's the Google of China, it's the Google of Russia. Russia has, I think, what is it, 120 million people? It's just the Russian Google, that's it. $12 billion company. Yeah, I think that's where the next disruption, that's where it's far more subtle than something like saying it's oblique, it's mobile. I think it's regionalization.
Hi, my name is Colin. So I'm also building a consumer app. So just like you said, the consumer app is very tough. So what kind of marketing tips would you give to me? And do you think that paid promotions is something that's essential?
So firstly, we learned this when we were in the Valley. it's really clear that there is no example of a internet startup coming out of Silicon Valley that grew through by buying its user base. It's all viral. Google was viral. Even Google's been viral, word of mouth. Yahoo was largely word of mouth originally. Facebook has been word of mouth. Twitter is word of mouth. It's word of mouth and PR. I think if you're having to buy a customer, that is a customer that there's a good chance is going to churn out because he came to you for the wrong reason that you bought him. Your customer experience has to be good enough to win the customer through word of mouth and people signing you up. If you look at the long stack of internet companies, if you look at the rest of this region about companies which actually buy a user base, very rare. You only see that in Japan, where I think there's almost a ritual right that for you to be a successful consumer, you've got to buy a very large billboard in Shibuya. So it's massive, it's kind of wet station, I see it everywhere and that sort of stuff. There are some other examples around the region, but I think you should start with the essence of your product's got to be good enough to carry itself on PR.
So let's say that paid promotions are out of the picture. So what are the let's say for Week33, how do you get that viral hook?
It was all member get member. We have a virtual currency in Week33, so we would give little rewards, and we allow people a credit status around signing more users up. And the more people you sign up and get on, the better your reputation is, the more you can do in the service.
So it's creating a viral thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. We had to give you an idea of how we think about our customers. Within the first 6 months of Week33 launching, we had 40% of the population of the Maldives on Week33, and they were chatting away and from island to island, and all this was all the stuff in the Maldives. And we're trying to figure out how to monetize. And our first $1,000 of revenue was coming from these two little guys who stopwatchers in the Maldives with their phone. They're using Week33 to sell callback service to India and Bangladesh. And they rent the service out of their phone and all that sort of stuff. And they figured, well, okay, let's scale this up because these guys have solved our cash collection problem for us in the Maldives. How will I get scale to this? So what we did in the product was we started creating little announcements where we told people that you could buy Week33 credits and you can use them locally from where you are, but you just had to speak to these two little fellows. In 4 months, these two guys went from $600 a month to $120,000 a month in sales in the Maldives. And no marketing, just consumer insight, trying to figure out how distribution channels work. By the way, I've never been to the Maldives yet. And this consumer insight, listening to customers and gathering data from them, just having the discipline to do that without even having to be there. Yeah, that's member get member, having deep insights in that. I would recommend anyone who's been a consumer internet company at the moment to go and get some books on gamification. So go to safari.com, go to Amazon, type in gamification. There's a whole bunch of great O'Reilly books on that. And it talks about building playful systems, playful feedback loops into your consumer experience, which allow you to create expansionary user bases. And whatever it is, just don't send me a Candy Crush invite because.
My name is Vishwanath. I have a question from your personal experience. At the time when your CTO actually left you, I'm sure that was a very difficult time, and you had already taken money from your investors, and you had questions to be answered. So I would like to know, what was going through in your head at that point of time, and what was the logical decision that you made at that point of time? Because it sounds very glamorous, but I'm still trying to answer the same question.
Yeah, it sounds great in hindsight. It was. I think the first word was bugger. So one of the things I really miss about Australia, about Western Australia in particular, it's a mining state. It's got 1.25 million people in it. Well, sorry, when I left Perth, there were only 1.25 million people living there. There's like 2 million now, just the Perth in Western Australia is the top country on the planet when it comes to junior mining. Why is this the case? Because realizing the terrain and the circumstances in WA is that you need to go and build a mine in the middle of absolutely nowhere with nothing but another guy standing next to you, a shovel, and that might be it. So how do you figure it out and just get on with it? You know, one of my best mates back in Perth, when I caught up with him about a year ago, he'd set up a mine in Guinea with another fellow, tied 120 logs to build his mine. He'd just been kidnapped for 3 months and had just come back. And he was just sitting there laughing about it. It was just a bit of a funny thing. He was going to go back. You know, this guy had built a mine in the middle of absolutely nowhere. And it's like it's a $200 million project. You know, middle of nowhere, two fellas parachuting in the middle of nowhere and build a mine like that. And it's this when people talk about, you know, this is a great book by Michael Porter, Competitive Advantage of Nations. It talks about how, in some of his early books on competitive strategy, which talks about how industries and the structural dynamics around industries create organizations with competitive advantage. The reality is, from where I come from, Perth, it's, you know, stuff happens, and at the end of the day, you're in the middle of nowhere, and you just gotta pick yourself up and just do the damn thing, right? So get creative about problem solving. So that was largely my experience of just getting on with it, and just not saying no and saying, well, how hard can this really be? Just picking up a pen and getting on with it. And I wrote, and I did something relatively interesting. I would say for everyone here in this room, Singapore has an unusual set of circumstances around it. All the things that you read in the papers or on the internet, about all the things that people find terrible here. Oh, should we have a little more foreigners in? Are there too many people in this country? The trains are full, and blah, 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 and all that sort of stuff. Or turn that to an advantage. A fantastic example of an advantage in Singapore should be the creation of microclimates. Because here, you think about it, you know, here in Singapore, we all live in microclimates, right? We should establish microclimates, do everything around that microclimate, and be a specialist in creating microclimates, because we're tropical environment, we make it habitable. So what happens here? All air conditioners here turn everything to 11 degrees Celsius and circulate flus in offices. You know, I think I had a flu 8 times last year. You know, you look at the Dreamliner as a Boeing plane now, being a graphite plane, so you can have natural humidity in the plane, and there's a natural temperature, so you get out of the plane and you feel rested. My goodness, Singapore is a laboratory for creating microclimates. You fish in microclimates. You should be able to propagate and sell air conditioning. Why are you buying air conditioning from the Japanese? Go and you could competitive advantage of nations. Go and be the best air conditioning producer. There's a whole bunch of other things here in Singapore if you think about mobile for the rest of Asia, Singapore is the most mobile country in this region. If you look at saturation of smartphones in Singapore, cultural attenuation, you know the word, attenuation, cultural attenuation from people in Singapore to Malaysia or people in this region, by far, you're in a fantastic shape. So the ability to actually understand or have insights as to how do people really use mobile in this region versus elsewhere, you have once again, you have a natural competitive advantage. So coming back to a long story again from my experience with my CTO, it's like bugger. How about that? Raise some money, promise people some stuff, and I'm gonna bloody well get on with it. And that culture comes from, you know, the landscape in that country. And here in Singapore, you'll have your own things, right?
Do you play keyboard? I mean the digital keyboard. Have you played any MIDI keyboard? So what we are doing is just normal keyboard in this size, and it's too heavy to carry. If I got installation, I want to compose the music, I don't have a chance. So how about split into two? So two, one here, the other here. Then I split and carry my bag. Then later I put it out and stick together. That's the keyboard. So we are doing this, and I'm looking for musicians. And if you know any musicians and composers, producers, I love to talk to them.
I think every child in this country knows how to play a keyboard or the violin. So you must have no shortage of possible problems here.
Yeah, so that's what I'm looking for here. Anybody here knows about his musician, and I can talk to him. I know about his maybe problem or need, and that's what I'm looking for.
Okay, good.
I have a small, something to share since you were talking about gamification. I believe there's a course coming up in Coursera for gamification, if you want to join us.
Hi Steve, another question, right? I guess at the current state, there are probably a lot of entrepreneurs looking for, pitching to you for their, their investments, wanting you to invest in their companies. So if you, from your perspective, assuming you are an investor, if you are not already, what kind of business would you really take an interest? What are the attributes you look for in a startup?
Every investor is going to be different. For me, it's life is short and time is short, so it's got to have a chance of becoming $1 billion company. It's got to be something that can affect mass scale and users, and something that I can bring to it. Is there by relationships or insight or experience, whatever. Otherwise, I'm wasting your time, and there's someone else who's going to be able to help you better. Yeah, it's got to have a. If you're going to do something, you might as well do something worthwhile. That's my attitude.
I noticed you don't have anything on angel listing.
I'm lazy.
Also, you actually do invest in.
I have a few things around.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been a bit tied up lately, and I've been yeah.
Is there a particular profile of startups? Like any, for example, do you like food, or do you like is there a particular kind of? I'm just saying, like you know what I'm saying, right? Yeah.
I think it's got to be something which, most of the people around me, or whatever, they want to find something that can credibly become a. It's got to be something which has a possible chance of becoming $1 billion company. How does it touch something on millions of people? If we're going to do something, we're going to do something. If you are, if you're looking to raise money, the people that you should be raising money almost invariably should be the people within 2 degrees of known separation to yourself. There's a great book called. Has everyone here heard of the E-Myth? A book called E-Myth? Raise your hands if you have. Yeah, okay. I'd go and read that, figure out what it is I'm doing, why you're doing the business you are you building a business or you're living in it? And then you'll be surprised how in the course of that discovery you'll discover the people around you which should really be investing in you. And that's how you should get off the ground. You should do everything you can not to raise money as well. You will make more money in the first 6 months of your business than you would any other time in the history of that company. Because all that is going to happen after you raise your first dollar is you're going to dilute. That's all that's going to happen after that. You should do everything you can not to dilute. Start from that basis. There's very few businesses.
I'm sorry, I missed the last few words. Will you just repeat again? What were you saying?
You will make more money in the first 6 months of your business than you would any other time in the rest of the company's life. Because all that's going to happen is that as soon as you start raising money, you're diluting your shares, and now you're accountable to someone else. And it's, yeah. You have the largest percentage of ownership of your company around about now, wherever you are. It's only going to go down, right?
Yeah, just a follow-up to that. Let's say you don't have to raise money. Isn't there an advantage to getting outside investors, even without a real pressing need for the money, so that you can get some discipline and advice, some accountability when you're running the business? Or
that sounds very. Sounds very 50 Shades of Grey that you need to get some external bit of discipline in there. Yeah. The average cost of getting a web startup now, you should be able to get a web startup up and running for under $10,000, 10 grand now, possibly even lower if you're really smart about it. There's very little cases where you should really genuinely have to go external in a true startup, and you should be able to find scenarios around that. Yeah, and I would use the experience of rather trying to bring in some external discipline and trying to do the self-discipline things.
Okay, my name is Nachi. I'm into a startup. I have a struggle with running between doing business validations versus building a product. And trying to do the business validations, it seems that certain customers are stuck in the status quo, and they are not so interested in talking about the business validation. So, do you build a product and then show them, and then you get stuck? Rather, they say it's not good, or you do the business validation first and then you start building your product. So, how do you balance between these two?
Well, I think you're doing all of it. Actually, there's a great story by the guy who founded Palm Pilot, and what he did was he went to his workshop, pulled out a saw and a block of wood, and he had this idea that if I was going to build a personal digital system that was going to help me during the day, what did it have to be? So he actually pulled a saw out, a block of wood, carved it up, figured out how to fit it in his pocket, and he walked around for a week and he just pretended it was this thing. What do I want this thing to do, and what's my natural use case? If I was going to pull